Michael McMorrow coming to you from the sanctuary of the Center for Spiritual Living in Granada Hills, California, which is in the North San Fernando Valley on Chatsworth Street, across from O'Grady's Pub, if you know where that's at. So welcome if this is your first time visiting. We welcome all who practice their beliefs in faith and love. And so I'm joined tonight by Mike Carlin, who's working the audio visual, and a special someone. I don't want to break their anonymity. So Mike's sister is joining us tonight. We're all safely distanced, of course. And so we're going to start our service tonight the way we start every service here at our center, by just taking a moment to take a deep, conscious breath, as deep as you can take it in, and then just release it. In that release, we're just releasing the cares and concerns of the day, shaking loose the dust from our sandals, and just allowing ourselves to surrender to this eternal now moment as we come together for our call to service, which we call lighting the flames of faith. We perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Now, fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here this evening. So we light the first candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. The second candle we light for shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. The third candle we light for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. The fourth candle we light for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. The fifth candle we light for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. The sixth candle we light for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. The seventh candle we light for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. The ninth candle we light for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And the 10th candle we light for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of spirit in their lives, and for the space we hold for them here in our center, within our online community, and within our own hearts. And behind me on the altar, you see the healing candle. Please speak into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experienced the healing flame of God's eternal love. And tonight we can maybe remember all of our veterans who have passed on this armistice day.
I'm thankful, so grateful. I'm one with the Spirit all around me. I'm thankful, so grateful. I trust in God. surrender, I surrender. I'm one with the Spirit all around me. I surrender, I surrender. I trust in God.
So again, taking a deep breath and releasing, and just taking a moment to feel a sense of gratitude for this moment that we have together. To take time to be still, to allow the busyness of the world to settle around us, and to claim this time to invite an experience with the one Spirit. That Spirit that has all power, is everywhere present, omniscient, and that in some crazy cosmic way we are one with it. In the way that a drop of seawater contains within it all the knowledge of the ocean, we are one with the Spirit. And so from this place of conscious unity with the mind of the Spirit then, I know that as we come together this evening, that it is from a place of conscious unity within ourselves, with this living Spirit, and with each other, that we allow ourselves tonight to experience whatever happens, free of judgment, allowing ourselves to sit in the question, to sit in the uncertainty of what happens next. That we find a way to enjoy this time of peace and quiet without judgment or agenda, and just exploring what it is to simply be. So having set the intention here this evening for the cares and concerns and or intentions of anyone listening, we just take a deep conscious breath and release. And in that release, know that we are releasing it to that aspect of the mind of the divine itself that knows only to say, yes, my beloved, yes. In you I am well pleased. So we just release it to its perfect unfoldment, knowing it is done, and together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. Amen. All right. Well, thanks, Mike, for that. So we're almost done with this book, Start Where You Are. So we're going to get into that. So last week, remember, we were talking about, I should say, Pema was talking, and we were listening to the voice of Pema, where she was talking about there is compassion and there's idiot compassion. So, right, so she was really talking about how we can sometimes live without boundaries, and how this is not practicing compassion at all. So we're going to get in tonight, we're going to explore what she calls the 3 difficulties, which are some more slogans that she works with. Before I get into that, I do want to acknowledge that it is the 11th day of the 11th month. formerly known as Armistice Day, the day which was to mark the end of the war to end all wars, that being World War I, believe it or not. And having come from a military family and with a lot of military service within my family, I'm just always struck with gratitude that when I came of age and was issued a draft card, Richard Nixon, the one good thing Richard Nixon did for me was ended the Vietnam War. So I've always been very grateful about that, even as I mourn the loss of those who were beat up, either actually gave their life in service to that country and whatever we think about that cause, but also the guys that I knew who had to deal with it when they got home. And of course, we have many veterans among us today. And I just think it's important that we keep an eye out for them and bless them with more than simply a platitude of thank you for your service, because there's a lot of them who need a lot more than platitudes. So maybe we can make a commitment this year to keep our eyes out, to find ways. If we just all look after one guy, one gal, right, they'll all be looked after, right? So, tonight, start where you are. This has been a Buddhist practice, a Zen practice. Pema Chodron is a Zen nun and a pretty prolific writer and a wonderful writer in that she is a wife, a grandmother as well. And so she knows what it is to live real life. And she also knows what it is to have a strong spiritual or a strong meditation practice. So she ended last week by saying, we make a lot of mistakes. And if you ask people whom you consider to be wise and courageous about their lives, you may find that they have hurt a lot of people and made a lot of mistakes, but they have used those occasions as opportunities to humble themselves and to open their hearts. We don't get wise. We don't get wise by staying in a room with all the doors and windows closed. So train in the three difficulties is my favorite slogan because it acknowledges that this path, this life, is difficult. But it's a good way to spend our time. There are three difficulties. The first is seeing neurosis as neurosis, right? Not calling it something else. The second is being willing to do something different. The third difficulty is the aspiration to make this a way of life. Right? So in other words, we're acknowledging that there are difficulties in life, right? And by taking them head on and being willing to do that and to grow from it, and then to be okay with that. Now that doesn't mean we go out looking for ways to suffer, but rather we're just acknowledging that suffering is part of life, just as is joy. So seeing neuroses as neuroses, the first difficulty to see what is to see what we do. There is a slogan that goes along with this that says, liberate yourself by examining and analyzing. Now, this is an interesting point, to be able to see what we do, without judging ourselves, to see what we do without hating ourselves. This can also be a description of Maitri, or loving kindness. We could see what we realize, that's our first experience of the big squeeze being that time where life feels like it's pushing in on us, and we have to do something. It's the path of the warrior, saying what to do without turning it against ourselves. So this slogan is about liberating yourself by examining and analyzing. Simply means, as with the slogans, don't be jealous, don't be frivolous, don't wallow in self-pity, that the first step is to see ourselves as jealous, see ourselves as frivolous, see ourselves as wallowing in self-pity, and then just to ask ourselves, what would Dr. Seuss do in this situation? In other words, take the heat off of it. Right? So we're not doing it for self-recrimination or judgment. Instead of using it as ammunition against ourselves, we can lighten up and realize it's the information that we need in order to keep our heart open. And if everybody on the planet could experience seeing what we do with gentleness, everything would start to turn around very fast. Even if we didn't get to the second difficulty, which we'll pick up with next week. So this idea of being gentle with ourselves and staying out of self-recrimination and self-judgment can seem self-serving, and I suppose on some level it is, except if you consider that for probably 99.9% of us, we are far harsher in the way that we judge ourselves than the way that we judge others. And if we can get out of the habit of judging ourselves, then that is the key to breaking the habit of judging others. Right? So how do we do that? Well, we do that by learning to observe others. The way, we would watch just people walking in the park. Just kind of a neutral thing. This is where meditation can come in. So why does she bring up all these things? Because when we're sitting in silence, all kinds of thoughts come up. Because the mind is a very, very busy place. And so these thoughts of jealousy, of self-recrimination, of insecurities, of all these little, what she calls neuroses, I think the Buddhist term, if I remember right, is sankharas, or defilements. As these come up, but as we observe them and don't attach to them, right, then they lose power. So as people of faith, so we can do this, let's say we have a strong affinity with Christian practice, or as with Jesus, then we can, think, to imagine what it is to think with the perfect, loving heart, the sacred heart of Jesus, and to observe in that way. Or as Holy Spirit, to observe thought that way. In other words, we can, as people of faith, as we know God to be, we can fold this into the component, into this practice, not to run away from anything, not to glaze anything over, but to deal with reality, right? And then from the Christian tradition, then with with the heart of the Christ, which is that of forgiveness, right? That we can learn to forgive ourselves, right? So in that prayer, right, that we forgive, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespassed against us. We say that as kind of a rote prayer, but that's actually a very strenuous spiritual practice, yeah? Yeah. All right, so enough yakking. Let's do some meditating. And so tonight we're just going to observe the thought. And as Pema pointed the direction to neuroses, right? So if thoughts arise of self-pity, of jealousy, of judgment of any kind, right? That we're just simply observing them, maybe observing them in an amused way, right? Instead of being bit by the hook and then getting caught up in the story that we may have around that, right? Because, of course, righteousness can often be a very seductive hook in and of itself. All right. So, taking a deep conscious breath all the way to the top and releasing. And just let all the air out all the way. And then just let your body breathe itself. And release. We're going to take one more deep breath. And on this release, we're going to let the shoulders drop. Release. So we're going to check our seat. Back against the chair. Get all our wiggles and jiggles out. Have a good solid base. And we bring our attention to the movement of the breath in the nostril. So this could be temperature or simply pressure. Just breathing easily and naturally, observing the breath. And pay attention to the exhale. You see the mind begins to still. And so we are going to do a body scan, so focusing on the out-breath in the nostril. See if you can detect the movement of the breath on your upper lip. observing the breath on the upper lip. Keep your attention there and on the bottom of your feet. And into the ankles, up the leg, into the knees, and see if there's any torquing in there. Sometimes we twist our knees a little bit just to make that adjustment. Into the quadricep. The hamstring. The buttocks. Our sit bones. The end of the tailbone. And then into our lower back. And the tummy is rising and falling with the breath, just easily and naturally. Again, to the lower back. If there's some tension in there, you can just tuck your tailbone in a little bit. Let the chair support you. And now balancing the spine over the sit bones. Erect but free of tension. And the head balanced over the spine. The chin slightly downward. Staying with the breath. On the next exhale, relax your face. If you find you get hooked by a thought, you can just simply take a deep breath and release, and then just simply return back to the breath. Staying with the breath. Now we're going to take a deep conscious breath, and then on the release we're going to move into the silence for about 15-20 minutes. Taking a deep breath, release, follow the out breath into the silence. attention gently back into the room, staying with the breath. So we're going to work with the breath and work with this sense of peace, of harmony, of balance within. So imagine with me that there is a flame within the very heart center of your chest. And we'll let this flame represent the flame of the Spirit. As we know that by definition God is everywhere present, we are breathing in the breath of the divine, fanning the flame of the divine within. So that this light is commingling with the light within and growing in brilliance and radiance with each breath. So we're breathing in light and exhaling love. Breathing in light and exhaling love. So at our heart center then, this flame now transforms into a beautiful ball of golden light that is expanding with each in-breath. Breathing in light, exhaling love in the same way that we would blow up a balloon. This ball of light, this ball of love is expanding with each in-breath. Growing in brilliance and radiance. Extending now beyond the torso, side to side, front to back, top to bottom. Breathing in light. Exhaling love. Now we're sitting in this field of light and love. So with each in-breath we are feeling the light and love of Spirit itself activating us at an atomic level. Every atom, every molecule, every cell, every muscle, every organ, every bone, every tendon, sinew, every neuron, every wrinkle of our cortex is enlightened and enlivened by the light and love of the living Spirit. Staying with the breath, this light and love expanding now and filling the room in which we occupy in this field of light and love. So from this conscious connection with the divine and in this field of light and love, we bring our cares, our concerns, our intentions, our gratitude, that we raise all those within our community, within our state, within our country, around the planet who are suffering in any way around this pandemic. That we breathe in light and exhale love. that for those who are suffering in any way, in concerns around finance, experiencing more month than money, that we are raising them in prayer now, in the light and love of the Spirit. For those who are suffering in any way over anything, including ourselves, take a deep breath. Breathing in the light of Spirit, exhaling love. So from this place of conscious unity, recognizing and knowing that there is but one power, one presence, one source, one life, one living intelligence, one infinite heart of the divine, impressing and expressing itself in, through, and as all of life. This reality is the fuel and fire of all religious thought and experience. We are connecting with that, each within our own understanding. As we recognize and know and allow our life to be the life of the divine, that we allow the living Spirit now to infuse itself, to make itself known, to demonstrate its full power, majesty, intelligence, creativity, to express love in all of its forms, as friendship, as loving kindness, as compassion for all. That we allow ourselves to step into ways of being that call us to be more courageous, and in that expression of compassion and loving kindness for others and for ourselves as well. So taking a deep conscious breath one more time. And for this word, the cares, concerns, and tensions of anyone listening, we're releasing all of it now. All of it. Into that aspect of the living Spirit activated by our word and demonstrating as law, a law that knows only to say yes. And so in full confidence and in deep gratitude, we just release our word, knowing that it's done. So from this place of confidence and peace, we move through the rest of our evening, that when we hit the pillow, we experience sleep easily comes, that we sleep deeply, restfully, dreaming sweet dreams, awakening, feeling restored, revitalized, full of vim and vigor and excitement for the day, to experience and witness the full demonstration of the divine expressing as life, in, through, and as our life. We are grateful. We release it. Together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. Amen. So, thank you for joining us. If you would like to support this meditation service in our center, you'll find a little icon on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. There's a donate button. On the YouTube channel, it takes you to the PayPal. So be as generous as you dare to be. We honor all denominations here at the center, so any denomination you care to donate is accepted with deep gratitude and appreciation. And then, of course, we have Sunday services at 10:30. If you're looking to get into classes and so forth and are not on our electronic newsletter, you can drop an email either to me at revmike@cslgh.org or to Melissa at admin@cslgh.org, and we'll get you on our email list. I also have a book out called Blue Collar Spirituality, Finding a God That Works. You can find that on Amazon. And if you have Amazon Prime, you get free shipping too. So $10 for enlightenment, such a deal. So I think check it out. You know, you may like it or you may know someone who needs it. So it's a gentle look at finding God in our working life. So that's it for me. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Michael Carlin. Maybe if you're still on, maybe give him a little love in the chat there and say thank you, Michael C. And we're joined here with his sister Marie. And we'll see you on Sunday at 10:30 right here on the channel. And until then, go in peace. And we'll see you later.